All right, guys, we picked it up. Here is the amp. I'm so excited. Super smooth Craigslist deal. The guy was really rad. Let me pull it out real quick. All right, here she is. Silverface Pro Reverb. I cannot believe this amp has the output transformer I've been looking for. I am blown away. So let's go home, throw it on the workbench. Probably too late today, but maybe I'll do it tomorrow. And then we can go ahead and open it up and hopefully swap those transformers out really quickly. We got the amp on the workbench. Let's see what we got. So Pro Reverb, Silverface, but there's something a little different about this Silverface. And I don't know if anybody's caught it or not, but there's a few black lines on it. What are those? Well, this amp, as it turns out, is actually fairly special. I had no idea. When I went to go look at it, I didn't notice it in the Craigslist photos. But these black lines mean it is a black line Silverface. So what does that mean? Well, there's some history that you guys can look online and search. There's a bit of a, there's not a full consensus on what it means exactly, but the prevailing theory is that these lines were from the designer who designed the Silverface panel here. They were kind of guidelines when they made the design. And when Fender took that design and put it into production, those guidelines were still there. And so obviously this was a flaw, an accident. Classic Fender, classic Leo Fender, they just ran it and kind of went through whatever they produced in the first production run. They weren't going to make them go to waste, so they did it anyways. But these blackline Silverface amps are the first Silverface amps that Fender produced. So that seems to line up with the theory from the seller that this is a 67. We will open it up and see if we can kind of drill down exactly on that. But yeah, the earliest Silverface amps had no drip edge and they had these black lines. So super cool. Outside of the really just piece of history faceplate here, the grill cloth is really bad. It looks like somebody tried to put on a new grill cloth, maybe even a new baffle, because it doesn't look like it's even. And they just did a bad job. But I can speak from experience. It's really hard to get a really even grill cloth, especially one this big. So that's no big deal. The knobs are in okay shape, and the Silverface plate itself is also in okay shape. It's got a few dings and dents here and there, but I bet it would actually clean up pretty well. So that's the front of it. Let's go ahead and turn it around. This is a pretty big, heavy amp, so my workbench is barely big enough. All right, here is the back of the amp, and really nothing super notable here. Obviously, the speakers are swapped. We already knew about that. They look like they're Weber 12 F-150s. I guess custom ordered in red and blue. Maybe a USA theme with the, kind of silver white faceplate, red, white, and blue. Other than that, the baffle is pretty jacked. It looks like it was kind of reinstalled with like angle brackets, and it looks quite bad. The chassis code here is A10335, so we'll have to look up and see what year that pertains to. But let's go ahead and take this plate off so we can get a better look at what tubes are in it. All right, what do we got here? So some JJs for the rectifier and the power tubes. Let's see if there's anything good hidden in the preamp. Groove tube. I'm not sure what that is. Blue, some kind of blue lettering. Maybe you guys can tell me in the comments. Another JJ. Some kind of Chinese 12AX7. If I remember correctly, the ad said it had some better tubes in this, so that's kind of interesting. But not the end of the world, obviously. Looks like another one of those Chinese tubes. And a Sylvania for the last tube. So I guess one decent tube in there. So let's go ahead and take the power tubes out as well while we're at it. All right, so now let's go ahead and take out the chassis. The tube chart is here. It's kind of taped in place. I don't know. I don't think you guys are going to be able to see it very well. So maybe we'll get a close-up of that later. But the code on it looks like production 76, and the code is PI, I think. P is the first one for sure. I can't tell what the second one is. And it is an AA165 amp. So now let's go ahead and take the chassis out. We'll undo the reverb and a speaker cable, and we'll get the electric drill out for that. Well, oh my goodness. I'm assuming these aren't factory because it looks like it will not fit with these corner plates on. It looks like it just catches, and I can't get it to not catch one side. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to take off one of those. That's hilarious. So, all right, let's go and do that. All right, let's see what we got here. I see lots of blue molded caps, which is good. Lots of replaced parts as well. Okay, it doesn't look too bad in here, actually. All right, it's quite heavy. I'm gonna go put it down so I can get the cab off the workbench. Let's actually, what am I doing? Let's move the camera over here back to where it's been for, you know, kind of the overhead view, and we'll take a look at the transformer because that's what we're here for. Looks like this amp was worked on in 2009. It's got somebody's initials in here. So, yeah, interesting. But what do I care about? It's the transformer. So let's flip it over, and I might actually give you guys a kind of a nice little B-roll look at everything first, but let's do that now. Real quick, let's get a look at inside the chassis. So definitely the bias cap was swapped. There, looks like it was worked on in 09. 3-prong cable. Resistor swapped on the power tubes. Got your blue moldeds. Looks like some resistors might be original, but lots of swaps. Electrolytics swapped. More blue molded caps. Let's get a view of the pots here. There are date codes, but I'm not sure I can read those. I can't quite make that out. I'll have to look back at the camera later, maybe. Get a look at the bias pot. I believe that reads 67. And yeah, overall the chassis is actually super clean. So let's go ahead and flip it over and take a look at that transformer. So here she is, flipped over. See more evidence of the previous tech. Let's look at the first transformer. 606-734, so the 34th week of 1967. We'll get to the one I'm interested in last. 606-718, so the 18th week of 67. Go back around. 606-745, 45th week of 67. And here's the one we're interested in, the output transformer. 606-4-27. It's perfect. This is exactly what I was looking for. 125A, 6A, that's exactly what I want to see. This is the part, the final piece for the Vibrolux is exactly what the amp originally had. It is within a few weeks of exactly the same date codes as the other transformers. As you can see, these, original transformers, the date codes, they range quite a bit. This one was the 45th week. This one was the 18th week. So, a few weeks is less than actually typical between transformers. So that is awesome. It is worth noting that I did play the amp and confirm it works before purchasing, and it does work, which tells me the output transformer is totally fine. So I've got no worries about any of that. You can see the flathead screws, or all the rest are Phillips. So further evidence it's not the original transformer. And yeah, just the date codes are too far apart. So there you go, guys. I am so stoked, so excited. So now we get the fun part of taking this off, removing it, and swapping it over. So let's go ahead and get this on the workbench properly with the overhead view and get to work. Here's the top-down view of the Vibrolux. We can see that, again, somebody wrote in Sharpie, the previous tech from 09, it appears. Don't love that. Kind of, handy to see when somebody worked on it last, but I don't think writing all of that in Sharpie and all these other marks is really the way to go, but to each their own. You guys can see kind of some of the work done, some new electrolytics, some resistor swaps. Still got the blue molded caps in it though. Overall looks pretty good, but we are here for this and this. So these cables, the green and black here, as well as these three and these two, are all part of the output transformer. So that's what we're here for. So I'm gonna go ahead and make a note of where they're going to. So we got the lead there, there, there. On pin 3 of this power tube and pin 3 of this power tube. And then the green and black here are going to the speaker outputs for both the external and the internal speaker outputs. So pretty straightforward stuff here. Everything looks good. This one red wire does have a little discoloration on the end of it. I'll probably clip that off just to make it look a bit cleaner, but otherwise it should look perfect. So got the soldering iron heating up. We should be able to pull these out and start the swap process. It's important to note I've already discharged the caps and checked everything to make sure that there's no voltage left in it. So obviously an important thing to do. Now, really key here is I'm going to try and not hurt the very fragile sheathing around the wires here. So we'll do our best. In fact, I might even use a dental pick to lift this one out. Actually worked better than I thought it would. Maybe this is the way to go. All right, all the wires are good to go. So we'll need to make note. I did look up some photos of all original Vibroluxes to see how they have the wiring set. And it looks just like this, where they wrap the kind of blue and brown wires together, as well as the green and black. So I'm just going to make sure to note to do that when I swap it over. So now let's go and flip the chassis over and then unbolt the transformer, and we'll go from there. So here is the transformer in question. So we're just going to go ahead and take this flathead and this Phillips out and go ahead and try to be careful about it. I am going to swap the screws. I'm not going to use these because obviously those would not have been original. I will probably take maybe 2 from one of the power tube sockets or something along those lines, but I'll be taking some of the vintage screws that would match the patina so everything matches perfectly. All right, let's go ahead and lift this up. Looks like it's a tight fit here. Might have to flip it over to see what we're dealing with exactly. Looks like there's 2 wires off this transformer in the same spot. Oh, silly me. It's only 3 wires from the output transformer, so I did remove an extra that did not need to be removed. I can't tell what the colors are. See if I can pull out one by one. So I need to do red, brown, and like blue. All right, I should have checked that beforehand, but not a big deal. So let's see if I can just pull out one at a time. There we go. There we go. And there we go. So there is your coveted output transformer. 606. Here, I'll get another close-up for you guys. 606. Here, I'll face it that way. 606-4-27 125A6A. Exactly what we're looking for. Beautiful. All right, so let's go ahead and put this off to the side. So now I'm going to go ahead and resolder these 2 connections because that was my bad and I should not have disconnected those. Actually, it might be easier actually when I put the other transformer on here if I have all of them out and I do all of them together, maybe. I'm going to leave it for right now because I can always resolder it when I put the other transformer in this amp. So I think we'll be okay. Kind of see how clean that area is. Kind of interesting. Okay, so let's go grab the Vibrolux now. Got the Vibrolux here back on the bench. Looks beautiful. I'm just so pleased with how everything came out. Especially looking back at the other amp. I just think this looks really good, and I actually think the F&T caps look great. Certainly better, in my opinion, than the small caps. I know everyone's got a different opinion on that, but I like this look better, at least for right now. So anyways, we're not here about that. We are here to remove these wires. So we got the red, the brown, the kind of light blue, as well as the black and the green here. So we're going to remove those just like we did in the Pro Reverb, and then flip the chassis over and get that ready to go. So let's go and do that now. This dental pick method is actually brilliant. I wish I would have thought of that before. It just makes it so easy to pull stuff out without mangling up the end of the wire here. Okay. Beautiful. Let's flip around and see if we can get these leads out easily. There are those. Now let's go ahead and remove these screws. Now, I don't know if you guys will be able to see it or not, but the screws are a little mangled. These ones are probably the original screws, but just swapped the transformer when they did it. But it doesn't match the patina on the rest of the screws, like here or here. So these will be replaced with screws that match the rest. So we'll probably grab from the Pro Reverb just to leave everything else as is. since that amp is kind of the donor amp in this case, but let's first just get these screws off. And there you go. There is a transformer that was in the amp, 606-607, so 1966, 7th week of 66, so very early 66, but all the other transformers are 64 in this amp, so not the right fit. You'll also notice the part number is different, 022848. That is the exact same. These two transformers, you'll be able to tell, are exactly the same. However, I believe it was in 66 or maybe late 65, the part number changed to 022848 instead of 125A, 65A. So, but otherwise, these are completely identical. Although interesting, this one does have a little bit of a channel through it, whereas this does not. That's interesting. Functionally, they're supposed to be identical, so maybe they are slightly different in construction. You can actually see where the channel would have been cut on that one, right there, where it is cut on this. This being the correct transformer for the amp. So that's fascinating. I wasn't expecting that. Cool. All right, so now we've got a couple issues to work out, and really the biggest one are the feet. You can see these ones got pretty mangled. I don't know if you can see that. On the transformer we're swapping over, and it's a little bent, got a slight bend to it. So we're gonna go ahead and see if we can flatten that out a little bit. And then I might put some washers on. I haven't decided yet if I wanna do washers or what. So let me grab a screw as an example. So a screw does mostly cover it, but a washer would definitely be a better connection to ensure that that this is super solid. And then also, you know, I've seen a lot of people do washers on original transformers just to kind of make them extra secure. So I might end up doing that just to be super secure. And that's not unheard of, you know, for people to do that. So it's not like that would distract, I don't think, too much. But I don't know. We'll see once we kind of swap it over. But I think next we're going to go ahead and try and source some better screws to make this fit. And then I will try and bend this tab to make it a bit more even. So let's do that now. All right, so I went ahead and hopefully you guys will be able to see, I added some kind of grime and dirt and stuff to the holes here so that they don't look as shiny from the, you know, metal that was grinded away from the screws being in there too tight. So now it looks much better than it did before. I don't know if I got a good close-up before on what it looked like, but I might actually do this side a bit more as well. But it looks significantly better, much older. The technique I used was actually to go to my car. I've got a truck, and grab some of the kind of grease and stuff from the ball joints and just kind of dabbed it on there like so, and then just kind of worked it in. So nothing crazy. And yeah, just kind of work it in until it starts to look natural. So much easier to do off camera. But yeah, just add some dirt and some aging, which would be expected. So these definitely age quite a bit. As you can see, it's got a lot of markings all over it, which is pretty typical. So I'm going to wrap this side up a little bit, and then next we'll be finding the right screws to use for it. So let's go ahead and do that now. Here we go. Here are our two screws. They look great. Match the aging on this perfectly. They're actually, I pulled them from existing screws and then replaced two screws with two from the other amp. There's no way you would ever be able to know which are which, but these two in particular I felt looked the best. They looked aged. This one's got a little bit of like some flux or something on it, a little bit of yellow, which matches the transformer. Yes, I am being crazy about this, but it's all part of the fun for me. So now we can go ahead and start mocking this up. So transformer, I believe, should go like this. I did straighten out the legs too. I don't know if I mentioned that. So that looks good. This will go in here. These three will go in here. But we'll do that after we get it screwed in. I just want to be really careful about this step. Make sure I've got everything perfect. This is the best fitting head I have out of all of my screwdriver heads. So I want to make sure that that was correct. So here we go. This side has got more of that kind of yellow, I don't know what you call it, flux or whatever, that's hanging off the edge. So this is screw, it has a little bit of that on it. So we're going to put it on this side. See if we can hand tighten this a decent amount. Really just trying to minimize the contact I have with the screwdriver. Put the other one in similarly. Beautiful. This screw looks a little shiny on this side, so I'm going to make it dulled a little bit. All right, let me flip it around one more time and tighten the other side and we'll be good to go. Woohoo! Stoked. Okay. So now let's go ahead and feed the wires through. This one conveniently already has the wires wrapped. We'll do one at a time. Red first. Actually, we'll do it in order that they are here. So we'll go brown first. It's got kind of a sharp pointy edge on it. Let me just round that off with the soldering iron. Perfect. Okay, let's go ahead and flip the chassis around. All right, so we will have the red, which I can't remember. I think it might have gone here or here. I'll have to look back at that. And then these two need to be twisted together. And then I'll have to look back as well to see which side went to which. So I'm going to go ahead and pause here, review my notes, and then we can start soldering. So we're going to have the red go here, and then the brown go here to pin 3 of this 6L6, and then blue to the same pin on this 6L6. So I've got these wrapped together. That'll be great. Now let's go ahead and feed this over like this. Not sure. I think I might strip this just a little bit to have a bit more room for the lead because this doesn't have very much sticking out. So I'm going to consult some photos of vintage ones to see if it goes under these wires or above. Looks like all of the original wires go from under up, so I'm going to do that as well. And they don't hook them, so I'm not going to do some gnarly hook here, but I will just bend it over slightly. Beautiful. That looks good. I think that'll be perfect. These are a bit tricky to reach to solder, so I'm going to go ahead and do those first. All right, let's clean this one up. Beautiful. Easy. Let's go ahead and cut the excess off. Now let's go ahead and add the red here. And I'll probably redo this black as well. So this red got a little chewed up, so we'll trim that. Same method. So I'm gonna go ahead and try and get it in like that. It's gonna be a bit tricky, especially from this angle. What I'd like to do is preserve the original dome there, because I'm not confident in my ability to do that better. Or not better, but the same. All right, that worked really well. So that's in there. This one I'm probably going to push in a bit further. Let's do that. So I think I'm just going to pull that out and redo this one. Wow, look at that. What a mess. This does not need to be so long, so I can actually cut this shorter. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Better to start fresh on this. Yeah, I got a lot of extra room here, so I can do that and feel okay about it. Just gonna be like this. Now I'm not sure if this is the same kind of cloth wire you see on like a guitar, to where it just kind of, you pull it back. I think I'm gonna have to very carefully cut this and remove it. Beautiful. All right, now I should be able to slide some more down. Got a bit more to grab onto. Look at that. All right, let's go ahead and tin that end. Love when a plan comes together. We're gonna go ahead and just jam that in there. I don't have to worry about this as much as the plastic sheath, or whatever you want to call this, plastic covering. This is much more fragile than the cloth. I've worked with the cloth plenty. Cloth is super durable, so I'm not really worried about that. So I can just kind of hold it and jam it in after I heat up that solder joint. All right, just like that. I'm gonna hit this one back here one more time as well, just for good measure. Bam. Now we just gotta go ahead and do these last two and we are there. So stoked. So I wanna know if this goes under the green here. I imagine it does. Let me pull up a photo of some old ones to see. Okay. I'm looking over everything and I think we are done. I'm just gonna quadruple check that everything's in the right place, but I believe so. We got pin 3 blue, pin 3 brown, got the red there, and then got the speaker outs with the green and black. All right, guys. I think I'm calling it. I think we're good. So next step is really going to be, I guess, turning it on for the first time and making sure everything is okay. So we're going to turn it on. I'll have my light bulb limiter, and we'll start trying to dial in the bias. I'll also go over some of the tubes I picked up for this amp that we'll be trying in it. And yeah. Man, I cannot believe we're at this point. I cannot believe this transformer. I mean, all of that is just so incredible. Truly amazing. Incredibly excited. So that's where we're at, guys. Next stop, turning her on. I wasn't necessarily going to record this part because you guys have seen me solder so much already, but I'm going through and heating up every single solder joint in this amp because I figure it might as well. Just to make sure everything's got a nice solid connection. There's no old solder joints that are kind of on their last leg. So everything is being hit. So my goal is just to be as careful as I can because obviously I don't want to hit the wrong thing here. Beautiful. I think that's all of them. I'm really pleased with everything I'm seeing here. Yes. Thanks for watching, guys.